You know, in the world of bioengineering, scientists are always on the lookout for new ways to help our bodies heal. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty amazing breakthrough that combines two of nature's most incredible materials to create a super scaffold that could rebuild human tissue from the inside out. So the big question behind all this research is a tough one. How do you actually build a structure that's not only friendly to our bodies, but also strong enough to support tissues while they heal? It's one of the biggest challenges in regenerative medicine, and honestly, the answer could change everything. Think about it. When our bodies get seriously injured, sometimes they need a little extra help to heal the right way. That's the whole point of tissue engineering, to create these scaffolds that act like a temporary framework, giving new cells a place to grab onto and grow. But yeah, it's not nearly as simple as it sounds. The real problem is that a lot of the materials we have now, things like basic hydrogels, they just don't quite cut it. They might be biocompatible, sure, but they often lack the pure mechanical strength needed for parts of the body that take a lot of stress. They don't perfectly copy our natural tissue matrix, and sometimes they just aren't the best environment for new cells to really thrive. We need something better. And this brings us to a really fascinating new idea. What if, instead of just using one material, we combined two natural powerhouses? So enter silk fibroin and hyaluronic acid. Now on the surface, that might seem like a weird partnership, but as you're about to see, it is incredibly effective. So let's meet our two key players. On one side, you've got silk fibroin, which is the protein that comes from silkworm cocoons. This stuff is the backbone of the whole operation. It's incredibly strong, our bodies are fine with it, and it breaks down nice and slow. Then, on the other side, we have hyaluronic acid, a substance that's already all over our own bodies. This is the bioactive part, the stuff that's essential for helping our cells move around and develop. So one gives you the strength, and the other creates the perfect cell-friendly neighborhood. Okay, but here's the catch. You can't just throw them in a bowl, mix them up, and hope for the best. In their natural state, these two molecules have no way to chemically link up to form a single, strong structure. They needed a clever chemical upgrade to really unlock their potential. And the end goal here is to create something called a composite hydrogel. And this isn't just a simple mix. It's a totally new material where the combination of silk and hyaluronic acid creates something synergistic. It's a case where 1 + 1 = 3, making it way stronger and more functional than either part could ever be on its own. So how did the researchers actually pull this off? Well, it all comes down to a brilliant little piece of chemistry that's actually surprisingly simple. They came up with a recipe that lets them lock these two materials together with nothing more than a quick flash of light. The process is basically a 4-step upgrade. First, they take the natural silk and chemically tweak it to create something called SFMA. They do the same thing to the hyaluronic acid, creating HAMA. Just think of these changes as adding little chemical hooks to each molecule. Then they stir in a light-sensitive molecule called a photoinitiator. And for the final step, they mix the two solutions together, ready for that last magic ingredient, light. And this is where it all comes together. That flash of UV light kicks the photoinitiator into action, which causes those chemical hooks on the silk and the hyaluronic acid to just snap together, forming super strong, permanent bonds. In less than 30 seconds, what was just a liquid solution suddenly transforms into a stable, interconnected gel network. It's pretty incredible. All right, so now for the million-dollar question. Is this new composite material actually strong? Well, it's time for the stress test, where the scientists really push this hydrogel to its absolute limits to see if the theory actually holds up. The main way they do this is with a static compression test. It's really straightforward. They make a little cylinder of the hydrogel, stick it in a machine, and just squeeze it. By measuring how much force it takes to squish the sample, they can figure out its stiffness, which is also known as its Young's modulus. First, they tested the hydrogels that were made only with the modified silk, the SFMA, and the results showed a really clear pattern. As they upped the concentration of silk from 5% all the way to 20%, the stiffness of the gel just climbed right along with it, from about 3 kilopascals to over 10, which makes total sense, right? More building blocks means a stronger structure. But this is where things get really, really interesting. When they added just 1% of that modified hyaluronic acid, the MHAA, whoa, the effect was just dramatic. At every single concentration of silk, the hydrogel's stiffness shot way up. I mean, look at that 20% silk sample. It jumped from 10 kilopascals to almost 20. It literally doubled its mechanical strength. So the huge takeaway here is that synergy. The silk gives you a solid foundation for sure, but the hyaluronic acid isn't just a passive ingredient. It actively jumps in, reinforces the whole network, and creates a composite material that is way, way tougher than the sum of its parts. This is the power of combination right here. So all this brings us to the payoff. Because this isn't just some cool experiment in a lab, the ability to precisely tune how strong this hydrogel is has some really profound implications for the future of engineering human tissue. You see, different tissues in our body have totally different levels of stiffness, so we need scaffolds to match. That strongest formula, with lots of silk and the added HAMA, could be perfect for tough, load-bearing tissues like cartilage. The middle-of-the-road versions, great for things like connective tissues. And the softer gels could be used for more delicate stuff. You can basically dial in the perfect strength you need for any job. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The researchers themselves pointed this out. They state right in their paper that the wide range of mechanical properties they got from these hydrogels lays the foundation for a whole new class of biomaterials that can be tailored for all sorts of specific medical needs. And that leaves us with one last, pretty mind-blowing thought. Because this whole material is formed with a flash of light, it's basically perfect for things like 3D printing. So what if we could one day print replacement tissues, a piece of cartilage, a tendon, not just in the perfect shape, but with the exact custom-tuned strength it needs to work perfectly inside your body? That's the future this research is helping to build.